Okay, all right. So, yeah, I think we're 4 minutes late. Um, Still some of them are joining. You guys should be able to see one of my blank screen with a note,
Yeah,
and you should be able to see myself too. So let me know if you can see my screen.
yes, I can see you.
Okay, all right. So although yeah, so I'll not make any more delay because you guys joined, so your time should be also valuable, you know. So um, so maybe some of you don't know me, and some of you maybe you know me. So let me introduce myself in a short, in 2 lines. You know, yeah, my name is Jahidul Islam, and I am a professional coach. I I take teaching as a profession as well. Same time, I do work as a full-time Devops engineer, and I do work in New York area. To be specific, my office is in Long Island. So yeah, as part of, I do two things. I work as a full-time engineer as well. I do teach people. So that's like in a short, that's me. Now, why we have this session, I have I have come across a number of candidates, number of people, those who I found that, you know, they need some form of, at least some form of guideline or advice. So we do this same thing for our regular students in a different way, with couple of sessions, and with little bit different way, right? Which surely I cannot do it in this session within this short time. So my main focus would be to give you a clear guideline in terms of generic interview approach. So there are two kinds of things I always say regarding interviews. One is a very generic approach. It doesn't matter you are a lawyer, you are working for tech, you are working for some administrative work, or what. It doesn't matter what type of interviews you are going for, right? There is some basic things people is going to look into at all times. So you need to make sure that you comply with those stuffs whenever you are um, going for your interviews, right? So um, give me one more second. I just so as I was saying, right? Give me a moment. Just trying to make sure I can see. Yeah, I just turned off screen sharing. There is nothing much to show you in the screen. I personally do not prefer slides and other things. I'm not a fond of slides, to be honest. So I will give you a general guidelines. Maybe I'll talk 5 minutes more. Then I'll try to get some questions from you guys, or you can keep typing those questions, or maybe you can turn on your mic, you can ask. It's up to you. You can do any of that. So as part of general instructions, right, whenever you approach for your interviews, right, there are technical things. If you are technical or your job specific things, right? Let's say you are applying for let's say, as I am techie, I'm more into tech. So if you apply for developer positions, there are technical items. If you apply for a QA positions, there are technical items. And now if you apply for let's say project manager positions, there are specific things um, for project manager, right? And now if you apply for, let's say, business analyst, so there will be specific things you will be asked as a business analyst. But before people ask you anything specific to your domain or to your specialty, people will go over some other generic aspect, right? People often do not put emphasis on that. The Due to that reason, people struggles a lot in interviews, especially freshers. Even people has lots of experience, they also struggle with this because not everyone is a good communicator, right? So when you go to a conversation or people thinks interview as an exam. So first thing, you should not think this one as an exam. Number two, you should not think that this is something people will ask you a question. It's not a one way activities. It's a two-way activities. That means um, you will be asked question, and you will have also right to ask question. And how smartly you ask questions, and how appropriately you ask questions, that also shows your excellency. So it's a two-way communication. It's not a one way. It is not a test. If you think this is a test, then you are in a problem. You are in a serious problem, because by default human has a nature of we have fear about test. We have fear about problems, right? So we don't want to face test. If you look into your childhood, your school and college, or your wherever you went to universities, um, everywhere test, mostly test is something you always find fearful, right? So number one, you should not think interview as a test. It's a two-way activities. And always you need to understand, besides your technical expertise or domain specific expertise, whatever your job role or whatever your job position is, there are other things to look into, right? So maybe you have done some training, maybe you went some places, you have learned some items, right? So those are your technical expertise. Often people do not emphasize on your soft skills, on other skills you must focus on, right? What are those, right? Let me just as I'm trying to remove some misconception people has, right? You should not consider this as a test. You should think this is a conversation between you and number of unknown people. Now think about a conversation you have with yourself with some unknown people, right? Do you really start discussing something very much technical or very much personal? You actually really don't do that, right? If you meet with unknown people in the street, you may start discussing with them something, maybe what may what you two may have common, right? So you need to find out the common ground between you and the person you meet, right? Then you start discussion from there. Maybe you have an interest to deliver your business to him, right? Maybe you are a business owner, right? Maybe you want to sell some product to him, or maybe you have a service, you want to let him know you are a lawyer, you are so and so, or you are a CPA, or maybe you are a trainer like me, and you want to convey this message to the person you meet, right? Think about it. If a person, unknown person, let's say me, you don't know me, I meet you, like you have seen me in a place, let's say in a street, or maybe in a market, or maybe in a library, yeah, doesn't matter. You have chance to talk to me, let's say a few minutes, and I have a chance to talk to you a few minutes. If I start talking to you that what I know, or whatever my qualifications, or whatever my business or service I provide, at the first step you will walk away. Think about people, when you go to mosque, you will see there are people, they stay with some sorts of flyers, right? So most of the time you ignore these people, right? Myself ignore them. Many, like those people are in rush, has job, has work. You don't have time to look at those flyers until unless you really know this is something useful to you. So these are not useful things, because these people are going to give you a flyer. They're not going to tell you what it is. They don't have time to explain to you, because they have to distribute these flyers to many people. If they can distribute 1,000, they get some amount of money. They can distribute 2,000, they get X plus Y amount of money. So they have to distribute it in that way. So you ignore these people. Now let's say same flyer, like is an IT flyer you found in a mosque, right? So you ignore that person. But if you find a chance to talk to me or someone within my organization, and then we are not going to give you flyer first, right? We are going to talk to you. We are going to make yourself comfortable so that you understand who we are. You understand, right, what is our purpose. It's not directly we are going to deliver you the service, right? So exactly this natural thing happens in an interview. When you walk in an interview environment, often people will ask you, how is weather in your areas, or they will ask you a very normal questions. They will try to make you comfortable. They will try to break the ice, right? and you yourself need to take the chance to break this ice. You need to be comfortable with the unknown group of people, right? Because if you are not comfortable with that environment, you cannot speak fluently, you cannot be, you cannot bring out your natural attitude or natural knowledge or natural approach, right? So it is very important that you understand that it is, you understand these very basic stuff, right? If they give you a chance to break the ice, you break the ice, right? And then from there onwards, people start talking to you like what you do, talk about your companies and blah blah blah, right? These are basic questions people ask. And when these are the basic questions, you'll be you get, some of you get become afraid because you never been in the industry, right? But you have bunch of things in your papers and things like that. And then how do you defend that? How do you talk about that, right? You feel fearful, you feel like they are FBI and you feel like they are coming to investigate you, right? This is not the case, right? No one is trying to investigate you in the place of interview. They only try to investigate your excellency, your ability to talk, your ability to solve a problem, or your ability for whatever the purpose they are, hiring you. It has nothing to do, it has absolutely nothing to do on what you have written in your papers, right? From where you are or what companies you work for, right? It is all about your, all about, it is all about proving yourself as a competent person, not proving yourself as, where you worked. No one is trying to digging down where you worked, which desk you worked, which floor you worked. These are like very abnormal things. If this happens to 1 or 2 persons in the world, you have to understand these people didn't start the conversation properly. They didn't communicate properly, right? They didn't take the chance to break the ice. They didn't give proper answer to those people, right? So that's a, people often do not take that first few minutes seriously. That's like, that's out of my experience, I can tell, right? So you take that chance to break the ice, you take that chance to talk about yourself, right? So now you may struggle that, okay, hey, how I'm going to talk about the company I never worked, or maybe how, like, because you have done some demo projects, you have done some, technically these are all real and these are all absolute, right? The perfect things, these almost similar things you are going to do in a different circumstance and different environment. But business wise you have less knowledge, right? So you need to gain at least some form of business knowledge, some form of product knowledge, or some form of your job related knowledge, so that you can talk about it. People want to listen stories from you, so you need to deliver some form of stories to those people so that they find it interesting, so that you can attract them. And you need to remember they have a limited amount of time. They do not have 2 hours or 3 hours time. They have, let's say, they have maybe 1 hour time or 2 hours time, maybe 3 hours. If those interviews are really something serious, it may have 3 hours time. So within that 3 hours time, if you can kill 10 minutes by telling stories to these people, and the stories you are good at, not the stories you are not good at. So those stories gives them some leads to interrogate you, to ask you further questions, right? So here is another important point, right? When we talk about interviews, you need to always make some form of call, to your brain. It means, you need to communicate to your brain and ask yourself, in this room, right? When you think about this is the interview circumstance, in this room, right? Who is in control? Is it yourself or is it interviewer? If you cannot determine that you are in control, you are in big trouble, right? So in 100%, like, let's say, sometime you will lose the control, which is normal. If you are not really efficient one, smart one, you will lose control. But 90% cases, 80% cases, you should have control over the interview. What that means, you should drive people to ask you questions. You should drive them to ask questions in your area of strength, not their area of strength, right? When in an interview environment, when there are 3 4 people, never assume all of them has same skill set like you. Maybe there are people they hasn't done exact same job like you, never in their life. Maybe among 3 or 4 people there will be one person who has done similar activities, because there will be a developer, there will be a QA engineers, there will be maybe a business analyst, or there will be someone else. Think about in different office environment. In an office there are different positions, right? Not every position has the same excellency or same ability, same job responsibilities, right? But they're going to hire because they need to bring all the team members or key team members in an interview environment, right? So here you need to always, take it this way, that whatever if you have learned it properly, I cannot really make a comment on what you have learned, or but it's a general assumption that whatever job you are heading for, you must have learned adequate knowledge, right? So you should be competent enough to talk about that, and you should believe yourself that things you have learned, this is good enough. And if you can talk about this, these people will be much more happy on whatever you are talking, right? So let me give a little pause in this. So do you guys have any specific question as of now, whatever I have been talking about? I know I hasn't asked you guys to introduce yourself, and I personally don't like to waste time by asking people to introduce. Even the classes I take, first classes also, I don't ask people to introduce. Straight away by 5 minutes, I start my class. Because most of the cases, the students, the candidates, they have been with us like maybe 1 month or 1.5 months before we start course. So we somehow know, we somehow people familiar with the environment. So I personally don't like to invest time behind introducing people. So you can go ahead. If you have any questions, you can turn on mic, and also you can text anything you like to do. No question? You should be able to turn on your mic by yourself. If you don't see that, you can, yeah, you should be able to turn on. No question? Oh, that is strange. Okay, I can see a text. Yeah, so it's a good question. What resources do you recommend using to practice for technical interviews? So now again, this will be different than depending on your job position, right? So if your job position is it depends what job positions you are in, right? So um, let's say, give me an example, the job position you are looking for. Okay, so full stack developer or front end developer, right? See, there are one of the toughest thing you will be asked when you apply as a developer. It doesn't matter it's a front end developer or back end developer, right? Um, that is your excellency on algorithm, data structures, right? Doesn't matter which language you have expertise, but you will be seriously asked on this. Now, to develop on this ground, there are hundreds and hundreds of problems in the market, right? It is important that you know how to solve these problems. You also know why you have, why you have taken such strategy, because mainly the developers interviews, they focus on, this I should say the hard part to overcome. If you can hard part this, if you can overcome this hard part, rest of the things is based on whatever project you have done, right? Whatever you have written in your resume, that you have done this project, that project. So if you have learned some frameworks, there will be technical questions based on the frameworks. Now you can ask from where I can learn. It depends which framework you have learned, and surely there are okay, MIC, I'll answer your questions. Okay, let me answer this. Sha. these questions first, and I'll come to you. So yeah, so it depends. So there are two things I try to, I'm trying to simplify the item, that's trying to simplify the overall picture, right? So there are non-technical approach, what I have been talking last few minutes. Then there will be technical questions or interviews, right? So when you are applying as a full stack developer, or even if you apply a pure as-data engineer, right? When I say pure as-data engineer, there is a problem with, there is a, impure as-data engineer. What that means, um, SDET engineers, there are some companies, they have SDET by name, they do not have SDET by work. So what happens, like those places, key automation engineers are actually named as SDET engineers. But there are places, most of the places, SDET engineers really do some active activities with development teams and other stuffs, right? Like doing some unit testing and doing some form of help with the developers. So, and or maybe integrating your, maybe you have a robust framework and they try to integrate, they have the capacity to integrate that. So those type of programming heavy positions, you will be surely asked, they will be surely interrogate you with your algorithm, data structure, and this part. And when you to to specifically to answer Shadi, right? To answer Shadi question, right? Um, the resources are, I cannot really pinpoint you direct resources. For algorithms and data structures, solving problems is number one. So there are, you can maybe start with solving problems in common Amazon questions. There are, if you search the Amazon interview problems based on whatever programming language you have learned, they allow you to solve problems in any language. Let's say if you apply for Amazon or any big companies, it doesn't matter, they allow you to use your own language, the language you are comfortable. Let's say C sharp, .NET, C sharp, Java, Python. Then you can say, okay, Python is my language of choice. So you can solve it in Python. It doesn't matter. So strategy to go with solving algorithms should be algorithms or programming problems. You can go with big giant companies interview question sets, and it is in the internet. There are hundreds. If you search by Google interview questions or Amazon interview questions, Facebook interview questions, you'll find hundreds of problems. And if you can solve all these problems and you can really defend your solution, right? Some people, they can solve it by somehow, but they cannot tell why they have done this type of solution, right? Because one problem can be solved in multiple ways. So if you cannot defend your reasons, if you cannot say that how this solutions is much more helpful, at the end of the day, your ratings are less, right? Because maybe people assume that you don't have really depth understanding on the solution you made. You just learned how to solve it and you just delivered it, you just vomited it in the interviews, right? So your resource should be starting with those interview questions, for solving those problems, then find out what are the frameworks you have learned. Now find out interview questions or interview approaches specific to those frameworks. And I'm 100% sure it is there in interviews. Maybe you have done some front-end developments, and whatsoever front-end developments or you have done, or some back-end frameworks you have learned, there will be a bunch of questions. And if you can solve those one by one, so there might be a place where you can get all those resources in one go. If you don't find them, you collect from various places. It does not take much time. And then you solve one after one, you will have your own resource. Shadi, does this help? Is this helpful?
Yeah, that's all. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah. So this is one approach, okay? But just make sure that, because problem solving, learning algorithms, learning data structures, it takes time, okay? Like time complexity and memory complexity, all those stuff takes time. Remember, these are crucially important technical questions. If you struggle to understand big annotations, like stuff like that, and time complexity, memory complexity, so you will be in a big problem. As a developer, it will be hard for you to secure a job. Maybe you will secure a job, but not in a very good companies. The good companies always will look into your ability to solve problems, right? And that's the only way to prove that your brain knows how to think systematically, your brain knows how to think logically, right? That's the only way I would say. All other ways, a person might be logical thinker, but programmatically, how the program can test you much harder way to find your ability to think logically and solve up problems. You need to understand, whenever you are hired as a technical team members, most of you in this session seems like a technical looking for a technical positions. People want you to solve a problem. If you do not know how to solve a problem, there is no point to pay you this amount of money. Some people can, you know the range of money, it could go very high, it could be, why people are going to give this money if you cannot solve the problems, right? Because they are going to give a responsibility of $1 million projects, and you have to solve that. You have to make sure that this system survives, this system people can use and consume and they can earn money. So yeah, reach out anytime and we'll try to give you any other resources you need, more specific things. We can definitely find out a way and see what we can do. All right, so now as to answer questions, what kind of course we offer, DevOps or QA? So we do offer both courses, DevOps and QA. So we are more into AWS cloud computing. AWS in single cloud, we are not much bothered about multi-clouds. But yes, we do offer both courses, DevOps and QA courses, right? And QA automation engineer point of view. Okay, same question as okay. So Shahid asked a question, resources, right? Do you want to know same exact thing about resources, or do you want to do you have something more specific questions?
Jayadulai, actually, you can explain that what actually we can expect in the technical interviews of a QA position, like QA automation position. Actually, what kind of situation where am I going to face in the technical
Okay.
interviews?
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure. No problem. I can do that. So when you are applying for a QA position, right? Let me tell you something else actually before I answer your question. There are job positions. When you look into when you look into all the job boards, you will see there are hundreds of positions, right? Now you can ask yourself, when there are hundreds of positions, how can I get one? Why is it taking time for me to get one? Is because that you are in maybe below average or you are in average candidates. I'm not talking to you, I'm just giving you a general understanding, right? Now the regular QA engineers, they think, they learn, their approach like a regular QA engineers. They limit themselves in a small area, in a confined area, right? They do have some form of tunnel vision, I would say. I always say this thing. They do not have a wider vision. Now that's something you need to come out. Okay. Now it does not answer your questions, which I will answer shortly. But the thing is that you have to make your vision wider. People, as a QA engineer, always thinks about testing. That's the number one problem. Okay. Quality analyst positions is not all about testing. There are many other activities to do. There are many other things to do, right? So you need to also think those ground. Now, how it is related to your interview, right? When you talk in an interview circumstance, you need to come out of testing centric answers. You always think you bring everything into testing. That's the problem, biggest problem, because there are questions not related to testing. Why you bring those? That's a problem, right? So you need to identify which relates to testing, which relates to general environments, or maybe that is different questions, maybe that is behavioral questions, right? So you need to identify those. So come out of the thought of tester or QA engineers. You are going for a role in a team, but yes, you have bigger responsibility as a QA engineer. Now, how it is related to your interview preparation, right? So I said non-technical preparations, then you have technical preparations, right? Among technical preparations, Now you need to find out what you have learned. Have you learned front-end testing, back-end testing, maybe a middle layer testing? Have you learned a manual way? Have you learned also automated way? Both way, right? Now, when you talk about both way of learning, you should be able to demonstrate your ability to talk about all these things: manual way of testing, automated way of testing, and how you can, how you can describe your technical skills in a real world circumstance, right? What that means, maybe you have learned how to program, you have learned how to automate some web pages and things like that, but your biggest lackings is understanding the business. I'm not sure you guys realized it, or you guys, thought about it any time or not. You should have, if you would have seen your resumes and things like that. The first thing, you struggle with understanding the business, right? You struggle to come up with the descriptions of the business of a product you are working on, right? So your technical expertise on web automation knowledge has to reflect, the product you work with. So if you're unable to connect these two things, people understand that, you do not have real world experience, your lack of real world experience. Now, when you talk about middle layer testing, right, API testing, you also need to ensure that your descriptions, all these questions should be like stories. When people, there are 10, 20 questions, right? I have one public documents. I do share it with everyone. It's a public document. Some of your friends may have, maybe you also have. I don't know. If you guys want, I can share this one at the end of the session. It's a public document, but it's a very large interview documents. It's a question bank. There are few questions written by me, edited and updated by me, but there are many other questions I have collected from many other sources. And I also gave appropriate credit to those people from where I collected. These are not, I can't take credit of what I hasn't done, but I have enlisted this for my students especially, but the document is public, right? So I can share that. That will give you understanding on all these technical aspects of QA questions, right? QA interviews, right? So QA interview basically focused on your project. They start talking to your projects. You tell them your projects, and that's what should be your stories, right? Project. When I say as a QA engineer, when you talk about a project, your biggest problem, number one problem I have found with 95% candidates, I would say 98% candidate, right? Yeah, I'll answer that. So 98% candidates thinks about testing first. As I said at the beginning, you need to take out the testing out of this environment, out of this scenario. People want to listen a story from you. So when you start talking to them, you tell them about product. You tell them about your positions. What you do with that product, right? Then you tell them how testing involved with that product, right? You also tell them how this looks like, right? How do you have any understanding on the project, architecture or project, the pieces. A project has multiple pieces, right? Web application or API applications, it has multiple pieces. Do you have some form of understanding of these pieces, right? People also want to hear from you those. So you talk about the product, you talk about, how all the pieces it has, front end, back end, and all this stuff. And then you start talking about how you put your ability to test into this product, right? So this should be a basic sequence when you talk as a QA engineer, right? If you don't follow this sequence and usually you start from the bottom. You start saying that you are a QA engineer, so you have done this and that, web framework on an API framework, all those bunch of stuff. People are not interested to listen those first, because that does not sound professional, right? That does not really sound professional. It is true for you, it is true for DevOps engineers, it is true for other people. You need to tell what business you are working on, because by saying the business or product, you actually let people know what, like, you let people know that it's a significant product you are working on and you have some understanding on the business. As a QA engineer, it is too important for you to understand the business, right? Because you test business logic. If you don't know business logic, people is going to tell you who the hell you are, right? You just don't understand business logic. How can you, prove this business logic is right or wrong, right? It's not possible. So people are focused, people want to understand whether you understand this business logic or not, right? So you need to talk about that architecture, and now you incorporate your testing. From all these discussions, interviewer is going to take their lead, right? They will start asking you your language of strength. If it is Java, they will start asking you Java questions. It may last some minutes. They may ask you 10-15 questions. Once they start with Java questions, they will go with maybe your framework. Then once the framework is done, some point they will ask you if the project is related to API, they will ask you API questions. And now you need to defend your ability to test API as well. They may have interest to ask your automated way of testing. Mainly if you can establish that you know how API works, and then the automated part, if you can display to them, if you can let them know, whatever you tell to interviewer, right, they should be able to visualize those things, right? They should be able to see in front of them. If they cannot see those things in front of them, you are not talking in a right way. You are not talking in a right way. Makes sense? So you need to understand this truth, right? Whenever you tell this thing to people, right, all these technical Java, maybe Selenium, maybe web automation, then manual testing part or API part, they has to visualize. They has to visualize the framework you are talking about, because that will be one of the ultimate questions they're going to ask you. That question, that is your chance. It's open. So you need to identify also which question is open-ended, which question is closed-ended question, right? Sometimes people will ask you, tell me about your project, right? This is the open-ended question, right? You can linger this answer 5 minutes. You can extend it 5 minutes. So you are killing time, right? But you are telling them stories. They will stop you. They'll tell you, you know what? Okay, tell me this about your project, right? So you can take that lead to talk about next. So that's how you are leading interviewers towards your comfort zone, what I mentioned a few minutes back, right? And then when they talk about framework, they may ask you, tell me about your framework you have worked with. This is something you must describe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You take as much time as you can. You take your sketch. If it is online interviews, you take out your OneNote. You draw your OneNote. If you have some pen and pencil to draw, you maybe you may have some pad type things where you can draw. You draw them. You tell them this is how your framework looks like, right? If you are in a physical interview, ask them to give you a paper or go to whiteboard, right, and draw your framework. Tell them these are the places I have this, these are the places I have this, and they are connected like that. Tell them each and every details possible. Allow them to understand and realize, visualize, in other words, your framework. They are not seeing the code in a regular interviews, right? If it is not really a code test. If it is a code test, they are not going to give you a framework code test. They may give you an assessment as a framework, but the test will never be with your framework. Test will be Java problem solving. They may give you 5 problems and you may have to solve it by 30 minutes or 40 minutes, right? So when you are talking to this bunch of people in a group, like 3-4 people in an interview board, when you talk, people has to visualize. Anything you talk, people should not have chance to look right or look left. You have to have that ability to attract them to listen you. If you can make this part, why I'm trying to tell you these things, because people miss this stuff. People don't understand that this is something need to be done. And people, if you don't know that this is something need to be done, you never do practice, or you never try to develop this skill set. This is a skill set. You cannot, you may say that, what, I'm a very shy guy, I don't know how to talk, I don't know how to explain. That is an excuse. An excuse is never an option. An excuse is a biggest obstacle towards your success. So if you are a shy guy, if you do not know how to communicate, you have to talk too much in front of your mirror, in front of a camera, with your friends, and tell them what you feel, what you have learned, what you understand this, right? So and then there will be behavioral questions and things like that. Make sure that you ask them question too. As I said at the very beginning, it's a two-way communications. They ask you questions, they allow you to ask your questions too. Maybe they're talking to 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, they say, hey, Mr. X, do you have any question? So you ask them questions appropriate to that time, right? Maybe they're talking about framework, and you have already explained to them framework. At the time they are asking you questions, do you have any question, Mr. X? So Mr. X, you now the context of this discussion is framework, right? So you must ask them question related to framework, not related to how much money they are going to give you. Make sense? So you need to understand when to ask what, right? When they are asking you, because they will give you a chance to ask questions, and you should not miss a single chance to ask them question, because that is another chance for you to kill the time properly, right? When you ask questions, you know about that questions, and also they have to answer that questions. Let's say you know what questions you are going to ask, and you ask appropriate questions, and they're going to take 2 minutes to explain. So likewise, if you ask them 5 questions throughout 1 hour or 2 hours interview sessions, you will have more chance, actually 5 to 10 questions, maybe 6 questions. You are actually killing 10-15 minutes time of them. So by asking questions, you are killing their 10-15 minutes. By talking about framework, you are killing 10-15 minutes, 20 minutes. By talking about your projects, you are killing more 10 minutes. By talking about your company and your product and things like that. So you yourself answering what you know 40 minutes. Man, I don't see any reason for you not to get success. You might be overqualified to get that job. That might be the only reason to not to get the job. If you can kill time this way, but killing time should not be, it should not be such that people realize that you are killing time. You're just talking. You're answering them what they're asking. You are telling them stories. You are telling them, they are asking you open-ended questions. So your answer also has to be open. If they ask you closed question, let's say they are asking you what is, a Java basic questions. Okay, string buffer, string builder, overriding, set, list, differences, things like that. If they ask you all these questions, these are very, you cannot extend this question 10 minutes, right? But let's say they're asking you questions like, time complexity, like big O notations. They may give you a piece of code. They may ask you, okay, tell me the time complexity of this piece of code, right? You have chance to talk, because there are 10 lines of code. There are different functions called, and those different functions has different time complexity, and you have chance to tell them, okay, this is your understanding on the time complexity of this function, and this function. This is going to take some time, right? Because it is something explanatory. It's not a one-liner answer. It's not like what is overriding on what is overloading, right? I have, is this good enough, or?
Thank you,
I would
Jayed
have-
bhai. অনেক কিছু শিখলাম. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I will take Julia's questions. Let me just quickly answer the questions of MIC. How long will take DevOps course? Okay, so it depends. If you are fresher, there are different things to consider. If you are not freshers, if you already have a tech knowledge, you have some programming knowledge at least, then you will take around 4 months, 16 weeks. So it completely depends. There are case by case, considerations we have to make. The regular courses are 16 weeks. Okay, so I will answer. Okay, actually, I haven't seen the last question. So how should I pronounce your name? MIC or Mick? I can see your name with MIC. Or should I say Mr. M? Anything? No? Okay, all right, so no problem. Yeah, I'll come back to your question. So let's answer. Okay, so where is the text? One second. Okay, so I can see the text now. So yeah, sorry. Okay, So yeah, how I'm able to find out the difference between pure estate and QA. So when you read job requirement, it will clearly tell you. Okay, the QA job requirements will be, you have to know frameworks, you have to know programmings, but when you look into SDET, they will be actually more in, they will be telling you that, okay, you may have to work with, you may have to have good knowledge in unit testing, some development knowledge in front end, or some development knowledge in back end. So they will be trying to mentioning you all those, some closely related, some development related questions, right? Development related activities. So if you see those things in a job descriptions, you identify this is, this will be there will be some, programming challenges. It is looks like the SDET positions. Also, another source is to talk to your recruiter, to talk to your HR. You can ask or seek clarifications on the requirements. You have full right, I repeat, you have full right to ask recruiter questions. You have full right to seek clarifications on the requirement, and a recruiter will be always happy to answer you those questions. Why? Because a smart candidate asks these are the questions. Number one. Number two, why do they need a smart candidate? Because you are a product to a recruiter. If you are a good product, they can sell faster. If they can sell faster, if they can sell successfully, they get good amount of money. Okay, every time they sell you to a company, the amount of bill they make, it is very big. If you may not be aware, but the bill is very, very big. It's not a small bill. Okay, so if you can, when you ask them these are the questions, they understand that this candidate has, better understanding on projects. Because see, you just don't, experienced candidate, they not only need a job, but also they need a good job, a job they like, a job they find comfortable, right? Say if you start working in a company, think about your past. You have done any certain, you were in any certain profession for 5 days, 5 months, 6 months, or 2 years, right? If you are experienced in a profession, you will have some sorts of choices, right? You will restrict yourself. Okay, I don't like to work here, I don't like to work there, right? You will have your choices. So you always want to know about that project well, about their job descriptions well, because based on that informations, you actually decide, you know um, think of, let me tell you my experience. Okay, that will give you a easy understanding. See, there are domains I don't like. Okay, I'm not mentioning the domains, but there are domains I don't like. Since I started, this profession, I said I'm not going to these other domains, right? I don't know in future that will change or not. So there are certain domains I don't like, and still I have those preference. Even they, I don't even allow them to tell me the offer they're going to give me. If the domain is not in my choice, I straight away tell them it is not, because I have a job, I work, right? So I'm not like dying for a work, right? So I need to understand which job I'm going for, right? Now I understand now, like if you don't have job, you really need a job quick, so you don't have much choices. But asking question doesn't mean that you don't want to go there. Asking question shows that you are an experienced professional, you have your own choice, and you want to know those details from them. Make sense? So looking into the descriptions, job descriptions, talking to the recruiter or HR manager, whoever reaching out to you, is the way to identify. But no matter this is a pure SDET positions or QA positions, if you have learned QA automations, you just apply. Your job is to apply. Your job is to go into the job, go into interviews. Whether you get success or not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter, because for interviews you're not paying money, right? I hope I have answered your question, right?
Yeah, right. Thank you. One more question. Can you give us an example, like what are the practical questions you can ask about the company? You said ask them question. So can you give us some example, like, so we can prepare?
Okay, sure. So I will share you a question sheet. I think you guys may have. I think some of you have. You will find there is a question. There is some. I recently added some question. These are like behavioral questions. These are like soft questions, right? not very technical questions. You should be able to find in the document. I'll share the document at the end, or I can share it right away now actually. Let me find out the document. Again, the document itself also has a note. Okay, I will share this document in the chat box. You can keep this link. This is specific to QA interviews. Okay, select everyone. This is specific to QA interviews. So yeah, don't open it now. Don't focus on this now. Okay. So to answer your questions, right? When you go for an interview, you must research on that company. Thoroughly research. You identify whether this company is a startup company, is what type of business they do, what are the products they have. If you go to a company website, you will see the products they have. There will be some form of product sections, and you should be able to find those product sections. And you must confirm that those products you have some understanding, right? Think about, I can give you, like, tell me something you understand. Like, tell me some business you understand.
You ask me?
I think I'm answering your question, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Sorry.
What was it? The business, like product-based, SaaS-based application.
Any business you understand. Tell me any business you understand. It could be e-commerce, it could be banking, or anything.
Healthcare or
Okay,
yeah.
let's say healthcare, right?
Yeah.
So if you think about healthcare, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you go to a healthcare website, right? Should you be able to find out the product they offer, service they offer?
Yeah, I think they're providing, like, some of the application is like how they can give you cheaper way.
Yeah, so
the
you
cost.
should be able to find out the service, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, every companies you apply, a company is there because they have service, right?
Yep.
Because they sell service, they earn money, or they sell product, they earn money. Simple, very simple. Some service would be products, some service would be, software, right? Say software as a service, or XYZ, building ships, building aircrafts like Boeing, right? Or selling products like Amazon. So they have business, right?
Right.
You must understand their mission and vision. It should not take you more than 30 minutes of your time. It should not take you more than 1 hour of your time. You must do enhanced research on that company before you go for a face-to-face interview. It could be a video interview. I'm talking about the main round of the interview, right? If you have an interview in 1 hour call or 2 hours call, you make sure you go through that so that you understand about the company. You can ask them their mission and vision. You can ask them about their product, right? About the growth, about there are many things to ask about companies, right? About, let's say, maybe these are like very larger, these are sometimes tough questions to ask if you struggle to understand their business. But again, you can tell them, you know what, I have seen you are serving this type of service. Could you please explain me a little bit more about your main product, right? So you are letting them know. We'll share with you. We'll share that with you. So you are letting them know. So when you say that I have seen this thing in your website, they understand that you took some time, you took some interest on their services and product. Now you are curious to know more, right? So this could be one question to ask them. Okay, tell me about your product, right? Tell me about your service, a little bit, right? It might be a very big company. The team you are working with, they don't have any knowledge, other 40 items, but they have maybe 2-3 items or 2-3 product knowledge. They will tell you about their 2-3 products. So this is your question, right, to them. And also there are very common few questions like what do they expect out of you next few days, next 3 months, 6 month timeline. Because when you get hired in a company, some companies you have to give input by next day or by a week, by a two weeks. They expect from you output, right? Some companies, not all of them. And some other companies, right, they allow you some time, you can slowly pick up and adjust to it, because some project might be in a very initial stage, right? So they hooked you up in a very initial time, so you will definitely get some time to speed up. So it is a valid question to ask that what is their expectation from you by next few months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, right? So they will tell you. That way you get to know about the workload, right? Because some people will answer this way, you know what, we want you to come on board and you start working. That's what some people will tell. And some people will say, you know what, you come, get familiarized, and you will have plenty scope. If they really like you, they will never give you hard information. Okay, when you ask this question towards the end of the interview, by listening their question, by listening their answer, you will get some good message or bad message. They will try their best to convince you, give you positive answer on this question if they really like you. They will make sure that you feel comfortable, because the question itself to identify what will be your workload, what is there, because if they say we want you to give input by 2 weeks, it means they're going to push you hard. Workload is high. If they say, okay, there is a process, because some company has a process. When you are on board, they will try to give you some training, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Maybe this might be reading documents, this might be watching some videos they already have, or this might be working with some other um, co-workers. So there are companies, they have this system in place, and you cannot really start working without going through all this process, right? But some companies may not have. So asking this question is valid, and you can ask these questions. You can also ask people the question that if they talk about framework, you can ask about framework. What do they use, right? What will be your contribution to the framework, right? What type of contribution they expect from you out of the framework? Definitely they want you to write test cases, right? But do they expect you to do some integration? Do they expect you to build a new framework from the scratch? These are all valid questions, right? This is also valid questions that how large the team is, right? Because based on the team size, based on number of QAs available, you will be working, your workload depends. But one thing you need to be very cautious when you ask people questions. Under no circumstance allow them to have some negative vibe, that you might be very much concerned about workload, you might be very much concerned about your working hours and things like that. So keep yourself away from that, right? And another thing is that if you are a business owner, if you already have an existing business, it is always wise not to discuss about your existing business with them. Okay, it is a big problem. That is wise. Okay, now can I discuss something like my hobby? Can I talk to them, like if they ask, okay, what do you do in your free time, or things like that, right? Or like some similar questions. Yes, you can talk about something which is not seems like hampering your which may not hamper your full-time work, right? So you have to be cautious when you talk about this, right? When you ask them questions and when you answer this type of questions. So you should be smart enough to understand this, when to tell what, when to ask what. These are few things I can talk on top of my head.
Thank you. Very informative. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, meantime, let me share a link. So MIC, I still don't know your name, so I'll just call you by Mr. M. So Mr. M, here is the link. You can look into the contents, but these are very simplified contents. These are not details of the things we deliver, but this is just very high level contents. But this is assuming that you are an engineer having. Okay, so at the end of the session, we'll give you, you can find us in our Facebook. That's our easy way to communicate fast. And then we will schedule a session with you. We'll talk to you and we'll understand your requirement. We will tell you what we do, and you will go through some assessment process. And finally, it will take you at least 15 to 20 days to get on board. Okay, so that's our basic process. And after that, you can think about, once you are eligible, once you are fully, you understand us, we understand you, then only we take you on board. Then only the payments and other things comes into the play. So you can text us in this place, in this link. This is our Facebook Messenger link, and you can find us also in a Facebook, and you can find full details there. Actually, that's why I'm directing you to the Facebook, our phone numbers and anything you want to get. So you can keep it there, and we can surely talk to you. We'll be happy to talk to you, and clarify you. We just don't take people walk in, because we really don't want everyone, but we want to make sure that we help people, those who really need help, not the people we cannot really help. So yeah, we can talk on that, don't worry. So all right, so where I was, okay, so there was a questions, what are some resume building tips or for someone with no experience in the field? How can I highlight projects I have done, and should I include my job experience in a different field? Good question. Now, my suggestion would be to talk someone who is really experienced, okay? Not to go with yourself if you are not really confident. My 2-3 lines tips will not definitely help you out in a full-fledged way, but surely I can tell few things. It is wise and it is better not to tell anything not directly associated with your current job you are looking for. If you're very fresher, if you're just university graduate, okay, so we'll answer on that, okay, about the course. So so yeah, if you are a fresher university graduate, right, you think about there is no harm for you to put all the projects you have done, all the framework you built. So you have your GitHub repo, you have your portfolio ready, right? All the projects you have done, front and back ends and everything. And if you can display them, and with regards to experience, is a very tricky question. Yeah, it's hard for you. Maybe it is not hard if you can really portray your experiences, whatever you have learned as of now. It is not hard to grab a entry-level job. If you show some small experiences with some companies, that will help you to get a job faster. But in that case, you need some people's help, those who really know how to build resumes and do something else for you. Okay, Shah. It is very hard for me to pronunciate your name, Mr. Qureshi. That is easy. Okay, Chaudhary. Okay, Mr. Chaudhary, thank you. No, actually, yeah. Also, Shadi Qureshi. So Qureshi, I think that was answer of your question.
Yeah, okay. That sounds good. Thank you for letting me know to keep the other experience off of it and only relevant experience for the field on it. I think that was the main point
Right.
from your answer that I should focus on. That
Yeah.
and get some professional in the field to take a look and help more in depth.
Right. And you guys, it's true for everyone. Your GitHub repo, right? Your project repo is your strength. You don't find uncomfortable to share it to people. Okay. You don't think that, okay, my repo age is only 1 year. Should I share or should I not share? It doesn't matter. Why it doesn't matter? Because you may have repo in Bitbucket. You may not have in GitHub. GitHub you just created few days. Maybe you have something in a private. Who cares? No one cares. As long as you direct to them, tell them, okay, this is what I have done. You can see some of my sample work, some of my projects in this X and Y repo. And that makes complete sense to them, right? Some people will take time. If I take your interviews, and if I get your resume with this, I will first go to your GitHub repo. I will find all of them, and I will ask you a question from there. Actually, I'll not ask you a question from the resume. So luckily, I hope you won't get people like me. But many people will do this, and that is nice because you already have done that piece of code and you have that strength over your work, right? And if you get questions related to your work, you are more happy, more comfortable, because people are not asking you some of your mic is on maybe, so we are getting some noise. So you are not getting questions from some unknown people's repo, right? From unknown world. You are getting questions out of your repo. But I'm not saying it will happen all the time. It may happen sometimes. Also, even it doesn't happen, people sees that, okay, this gentleman has a repo, so it adds some value in your profile, right? And if you can put some live URL of your projects, let's say if you have let's say some of my students, because when I teach people, I teach front end too little bit to build some simple activities, like they can create a simple portfolio website for them, so that they can showcase what they have done and blah blah things like that. So if you have like that, if you can build that and you can mention that, okay, this is what you have done, or maybe you have done some other projects, like I spoke with Shadi 2 or 3 days back. I came to know him 2-3 days back. So when I was talking to him, he was talking about his existing projects he's working on. So if you can host this project in some small instances, some small servers in some cloud or some other places, and you share people those links, say that, okay, hey, go this website, this is what I built, and I built by myself, ask me anything out of this. That shows your confidence, that shows your ability to work, to you are demonstrating your things, and people find confidence on you, and people find things to ask you relevant to your expertise. Instead, a resume, your work talks much more about you. Is this helpful?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. So okay, is DevOps course based on real projects? So okay, I think let me finish up with, sorry guys, I will take, there are 2-3 questions after that, but let me actually answer about the questions we provide. So we do provide 2 courses, DevOps and QA. You can find it in our Facebook and other places. We are not announcing some other new courses, but there will be something incoming. But again, for DevOps courses, we are very choosy. We do not take freshers, mostly in a regular batch. As of today, the system may change, where we may have to extend our time frame, because for experienced people, 4 months is fine. For people those who are not experienced, it takes 6 months. So I believe it can be done by 6 months if people put their full time into learning this. I have that curriculum too, but I do serve that curriculum to very selective people. I cannot take, I do not serve that curriculum yet to mass people. Like, there are very few limited number of people I serve that fresher curriculum. So mostly DevOps regular course is based on regular people, those who have some programming knowledge, and 95%, these are all real activities. These are all, I don't know what people means project based. All I can tell you, this is a real things you do. There is no slides, no PowerPoint. There might be one slide. I teach something called encryptions. There might be another slide, maybe 1 or 2. So 95%, over 95% is purely I demonstrate. I hate PowerPoint. So I do teach both courses. So I'm the main trainer. I'm the main mentor. So the class we promise, if we promise 32 classes, those 32 classes will be conducted by me as long as I'm alive. If you get something extra out of that, that is extra. But the promise classes, definitely people get extra. You can talk to my ex-students, they may tell better. But 32 classes will be definitely conducted by me, and they are fully based on real stuff, right? So you really work with AWS services, you really work with real items. There is no, if that is the meaning of your projects, and then the answer to the question is yes. The reason why I'm not giving this answer straightforward, that do we teach project based, because I really don't like this statement. Why I don't like, in many places people will tell you that we are going to do 10 projects, 20 projects, 30 projects. What do they mean? You are doing projects every day. You are going to teach people 30, 40, 50 services. And when you integrate all these services, you can move this puzzle in various directions, and you can make some product, right? And there are products you can pick, you can see the solutions. So if you keep counting the solutions, there will be bunch of projects. But I personally do not, have something to mention that we do deliver you 10 projects, 20 projects. All of the classes are hands-on, and definitely we make sure that you end up with some knowledge which can allow you to survive in your positions by yourself. We are fully focused on skills. We are not going to give you interviews. We are not going to proxy or assist you by giving your interviews or doing something else with your interviews. So we want you to learn, and we want you to defend anything written in your paper, or which is, in other words, your resume. So yeah, you will have full chance. Any of you, if you or your friends, whoever come, they will have full chance to assess, evaluate, and we will surely assess and evaluate you to understand that you are someone we really look for. If we don't find you might be overqualified, or you might be underqualified. None of these cases you will not be with us. Okay. If you don't find us good, you can leave, because we will give you plenty time to determine and to get your 200% commitment. We don't take your payment until we find 200% commitment from you. Commitment to studies, commitment to work with us, and have full confidence over the mentor. If you don't get full confidence over our teaching mechanism, then please don't join with us. So we allow you to identify all of that. It's not like you talk to me 5 days and 1 day, or you talk to some of my colleagues 1 day and you decide to join us. No, you get full chance to access, you get full chance to assess. You get full chance to assess, and we also take that opportunity to assess you, to find your seriousness. We don't want to be blamed by saying that we convinced you. We never convince. We will never convince any candidates. We don't do that. If you like us, you stay with us. So we will help you out to understand and decide whether you like us or not, and whether you like the contents or not. And we will also have to understand you are good fit for the course or not. So that's a basic strategy we follow for any candidate we come, whether they come through reference, whether they come through like you, maybe you never seen me, never know me, unknown. So it doesn't matter. You have chance to assess and explore. We also need to understand your capacity and your mission and vision as well. Everyone has their mission and vision. Everyone doesn't think same way. Some people are happy to be QA engineers forever in their life. I know people like that. I know people with 18 years experience QA engineers, 20 years, 30 years, 3 good 0 years QA engineer. They may be very senior people, 50 years old, 55 years old, but they never thought to move out of QA. Right, so this depends on your mission and vision, right? How you think your career, what is your focus, where you want to see yourself after 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, or 10 down the line. So all these also depends when you plan which course to choose and how to choose, right? So that's about course. Okay, if you have, or your friends, anyone have any questions on the course, you can definitely reach out to us. We will talk to you, we will put you in assessment, and then we will make a final decision. So that will just take some time. But yes, we do have some, we have a next batch coming in October 11, and Devops batch will be somewhere nearby. We hasn't declared the date yet. So Mr. Chaudhary, that was about course. Feel free to communicate with us, and we will be able to walk you through all the process. Now let's get back to our interview discussions. I'm not sure how many, actually we didn't put the time limit, we didn't say it's 1 hour, but yes, I'm willing to put some more times if you have any further question. Any other question? No? Let me ask you a question. Meantime, you can prepare your question. Do you know what is called thank you note, and do you know when to send thank you note in terms of interview? Two days after the interview. Who has given you this timeline? Yeah, So there is no time frame, okay, when to give. Yeah. So if you find, mostly, if I am you, I would have sent this thank you note almost every after my long interviews. You have a recruiter call, you have a call with meeting, right? With the team, right? With the team, developers, DevOps engineers, or whatever, your QA manager, HRs, and things like that. If this is a real round of interview, you give a thank you note. You tell them, you give them thanks because they welcomed you in the sessions, in the interview. You give them thanks because they answered your questions, right? You give them thanks because they made you comfortable during the interview times. You like them, whether you like them or not, that's up to you. But that's what the whole essence of the thank you note. And sometimes this thank you note you cannot send to the team directly, to the people you got interviewed directly, but you can bypass it. You can pass it to your recruiter. You can ask them, okay, hey, below is the thank you note, please forward it to the Mr. X, Mr. Y. So you can send it right after your interview. If it is me, I do send it right after interview, because I cannot put it for 2 days, 3 days. I will be busy with some other task, right? You'll be busy with some other recruiters. So this thank you note, even you don't get that job, it shows to recruiter, to the team, that you at least have some form of work ethics, some form of you understand the corporate culture, right? Or you are a decent gentleman to work. At least people has this message out of your thank you note. And how to write thank you note, you can Google. There are many samples. You can see sample according to your job positions and things like that. More or less every thank you notes are same, but the wordings are different. Just check it out, make your own thank you note. Even you can make a template of thank you note and always send this thank you note to everyone. Okay. So is there any other questions anyone have? Oh my God, that's a big question. Where do you want to see yourself in next 3 to 5 years? Asked in a Q interview. Can you please give a good answer to that, since you have the clear picture? Okay, as I said, no, I don't have clear roadmap for you. I have roadmap for myself, maybe. I can't talk on behalf of you, right? No, I'm joking. I can definitely tell you a general understanding on this, okay? So what people want to know from you, you need to understand this thing. Whenever people ask you a question, they have a purpose to ask you this question. You need to identify their purpose and you need to talk in that direction. There will be questions related to your past, your work experiences, and maybe there will be questions people will tell you that, okay, tell me a time you found a problems and you solved it. You found some difficulties and you faced it, you solved it. What people want to know out of that? Why they're interested to know this question, to this answer? So any question like this, when people ask, you need to understand their motive. The technical questions, you know the motive. They just want to know, do you know programming? Do you understand frameworks? These are technical things, right? But these are the questions are not technical, right? These are the questions has some this gives you lots of messages to an interviewer, right? Such as what type of message they're going to give you. They are trying to find out. Usually this question reflects how much energetic candidate you are. Do you really have hunger to grow? We say hunger to grow, right? Do you really have that motive to excel in your career, to advance your career, right? Because a person, if you don't have hunger to excel, develop yourself, you are not going to learn new things. If you are not going to learn new things, that means you are afraid of new things, or you are lazy. But in a tech world, every day you will have a new things, new problems, and you need to face it, solve it, fix it. That's it, go home, right? So if you are not someone do not have hunger to develop, do not have hunger to learn, why should we hire you? Because we need a person who has hunger, who want to learn things, who want to fix problems, and who want to take credits of fixing problems, right? So whenever you answer that what is your roadmap to 3 to 5 years, you make sure that this thing runs in your back of mind. Now you can memorize some questions, which I never suggest. The day my candidates starts, the people I teach, I tell all of them, the day you start this course, memorizing something is haram, not legal. So do not memorize answer of all these questions. Okay, even these questions, you just tell what you feel to talk. Okay, after 3, 4, 5 years, maybe I want to remain as a QA engineers, but I would like to see myself with more equipments, more weapons. Now I know maybe 2 frameworks. I would like to know more frameworks. Now I know this language. I have an interest to learn that language. I want to learn and excel in my current position. But if you tell them after 5 years, I would like to be a QA manager, that shows you are ambitious, but that does not make the QA manager who is taking your interview, that does not make him or her happy. And if it is people of our color, then forget about happiness. They will literally punch you in your nose. Okay, they cannot do it practically, but in their mind, they feel like this. If people of our color, and I am also included that, but I believe I don't process these sorts of I don't want to process this type of psychology, but people have it. So be careful when you say this. So you don't want to make people upset. You don't want to tell people you are their competitor. Okay, but yeah, you tell them that you have career goal, right? You have learning plans, right? You want to learn these or that, things like that. Maybe near future you may want to go as a, you want to turn your career into developer, front-end developer, back-end developer, or maybe you want to turn your career into DevOps engineering, or cloud engineering, things like that, right? So you can also tell them these stuffs, which is very reasonable. That's my career goal. I'm going to learn and excel, and then I wish to move in some other direction, or maybe I keep learning in QA activities so that you can be a better QA engineers. There is no definitions of better. You can every day you can grow, every day you can become a better one. You may not be happy with my answer, Rizano.
Thank you, Bhai. Yeah, I'm very much satisfied with that answer. Actually, the answer that you said not to give, I actually gave that answer. So I know I made a huge mistake on that.
Yeah, so just think about, people,
I
as
was
I said,
thinking that I should have give something that in an upper position that I can move forward to in an upper level, that kind of answers, because I didn't have any previous knowledge of this kind of question. That's why I wasn't prepared for that.
yeah, okay. So yeah, yeah. So you just think about a regular human psychology, okay? When you get these type of questions, people are actually trying to check your psychology, right? Um, you can become a QA engineer. You can become a QA manager. It's not a bad thing, but how you display it, how you tell them. See, I also gave an answer, said that I want to excel. I want to become a better engineer. For what I want to become a better engineer? To get less money or to get more money?
Or more money.
So I already answered him, but I
Right.
hasn't hurt him, right?
Right.
So you just need to be a little bit smart enough. I'm not too smart. I'm saying you need to be a little bit diplomatic, or you need to understand people's psychology, right? Um, People has this problem, so you should not tell people this way, right? It shows you
Right.
you are looking for positions, you are looking for something.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's now I realize that that was an appropriate answer that time actually. The
No,
way
no
you were
issue.
explaining is actually that gives me more understanding on that.
Yeah, no issues. As you proceed, you learn, and you can correct yourself. One interview is not everything. There are hundreds and hundreds of jobs, so you just need to secure one position. So don't worry.
That's
Um,
true. Thank you.
all right. So yeah, you're welcome. Question. A question I received. What would you do? From where have you received this question? Someone is sending telex to you, or in an interview. Yeah, I'm joking. Forget it. You don't have to answer. What would you do if a team member is not doing what they are supposed to do? What would you do if a team member is, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I was joking. Yeah. What would you do if a team member is not doing what they're supposed to do? So now it simply, I will, surely I will not be harsh and rude to him, definitely. Um, I will surely talk to him because some people have some problems. Some people may go through some psychological family issues, personal issues, some difficulties. They may have a bad time and they may not work according to their capacity. So my first thing should be able to identify what type of struggle they are going, they are facing. It's not like that I want to know his personal things, but I at least want to know that he is going through some struggles. In a corporate environment, people usually don't share their personal things, right? So you also don't want to bother people to do that, and also some people are afraid to tell that, right? So you just talk to them, you just try to understand or figure out what problem they're facing. Do they have any fear of learning something new, or some people may not have that knowledge and you gave them that task and how they will recover. So you need to help them with regards to training, with regards to learning things. And if they have some psychological issues, if they have like mental sufferings, as a team member, you should stand by beside them, beside him or beside that person, right? So if someone asks me this question, this should be my answer to them. And they might want to listen something else to put you in problem. Okay. If you are someone arrogant, if you are someone do not have that source of compassion within you, if you think just yourself as someone big fish, you may go to your boss and complain, this guy is not working. If you say something like this, if it is me, I will shut down the interview right away there. I'll tell you this, and if I have the capacity to blacklist you in my company, I will blacklist. I don't need this type of people. Because when you work, at first you are actually human. If you do not have a basic human properties within you, then what's the point to work with you? In a day we work 8-10 hours, and if we work with people do not have human brain or human psychology, instead they have animal psychology and animal brain in their human body, I don't expect him to work with him that many hours. So I never give those answers. You don't want to complain about people, you don't want to tell about your first approach should identify what's going on, and then try to assist. If they need to learn, assist with learning. If they need some sorts of support because they are going through some difficulties, support him. Try to take over their task, help them with their task, or let other team members know that not to be rude to that person, because the person is going through some difficulties. You may not have to explain or tell them, but in a team you have some people understand you. See, you are a person. If you work in a team, people has knowledge about you, right? So if you say something, people will say, appreciate this. Okay, Jaidul said this thing, or Mr. X said this thing, or Nashin said this thing. So let's wait. Let's give this gentleman a little time. So yeah, this should be my approach towards this question. Okay. Did you answer something similar, or you answered something else?
Yes, I answered just like that.
Okay, that's good. That sounds good. You are on right track. So this is what people want to know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I basically answered like, oh, this person may be either overwhelmed or confused about what's happening. So I'll definitely try to help them.
yeah, that's the right way to do things. Okay. Again, this depends people to people. There are some people, they may have different answer. Okay. But as long as your answers has some valid reason, as long as your answers make some good sense to people, you are in right track. There is no exact answer. for these type of questions, right? These are behavioral questions. These are how you behave in terms of different team environmental circumstance, right? So some people will react with they will make some impulsive reaction, right? That's, what this guy is doing, I'm going to tell someone. Some people will say, you know what, I don't care, I'll just do my job, let him sink, let him die, you know. That will be some people's approach. So but again, so when we talk, you know, we want to be good people, we don't want to be bad people. We do want to have some compassion for others, right? So yeah, then can you tell some key word for interview process, example C2C, W2? So it seems like you are already in the market. Yes, C2C, these are actually various ways. This is actually, you know, it's much better for you to ask this question to a CPA, okay, or people those who has knowledge on tax form. But I do have some knowledge. C2C is a way where, you know, there are tax liabilities on top of your money. If they tell you they are going to give you $70, that means within this $70 you also have to pay number of taxes. But when it is W2, employer is taking responsibilities to give employer tax and your income tax and all these bunch of tax. After that they will give you money, so you don't have tax liabilities the time you go file for tax filing, right? So that's like one thing. That means if you get a, let's say if you get a rate $60 for W2, C2C it should be somewhere $70 to $75, based on which state you are, what type of tax liabilities you have, you know, what type of income bracket you have. You can identify that. So that's how you need to bargain with when it is C2C and W2, right? Usually people like me, they don't want to take hassle of C2C because we don't want to file tax at the end of the day, at the end of the year, and you know, you may have to pay a big number of taxes because you consumed all the money throughout the year, and it is tough for you. It depends. You need to make your own choice. Okay. So yeah, and what else? What is your weakness? Can you explain? Okay. So do you think you have any weakness? Um,
Hello. Yeah, are you
yeah.
hearing me?
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining. Yeah. We can talk later on. Yes. Yeah. So yes, go ahead. Yes. The question you said, what is your weakness? Can you explain, please?
Yeah, can you explain, please?
My weakness?
Yeah, no, actually, I don't
Yeah.
know, like,
You will give me job, I'll tell you my weakness. Okay. So my weakness, right? We all have weakness, number one. That's the problem with us. We do not acknowledge we have weakness. Okay. Um, because we process, we have some inbuilt ego in our big brain. Okay. So it is hard for us to acknowledge that we have weakness, we have problems. But no human is 100% right. You think about, you might have noticed all the questions I'm trying to answer from a very general perspective, from a perspective of any general people, like from your life, right? How do you see this stuff, right? People, I have found that people, you know, often don't compare this one because you are adult, you have passed long time of your life, and you know how you see matters, right? How you see different things, right? So you don't have to memorize these questions, you don't have to reinvent the answer of these are the questions. These questions, these are the answers of these are the questions. You already have answers of these questions because you learn. We get some Slack messages noise. If you can turn off your mic, I don't know whose mic is this. Some of your mic, or is this my mic, or is this my Slack messages? No, it's not mine. Some of you. So right. So anyways, let's get back to the question, right? So first acknowledge that you have weakness. Now identify your weakness, right? Your weakness could be it could be technical weakness, it could be your time management weakness, or maybe it could be you do things very fast. This is also a problem. You do things very little slow, right? You takes time to finish your works. That is also a problem. You can tell this. Sometimes you are not in a good mode. That time you take more time to work, right? This could be your weakness. Maybe you have some other technical weakness. You can tell that, okay, yeah, looks like I'm not that good at algorithm, but I wish to improve in algorithm, right? That you can sincerely acknowledge that when the people will ask you these questions towards the end of the interview, but at some, like, I would say that last quarter of the interview. I don't think so people will ask you before that. At that time they have already done all the technical questions mostly. So when you tell them your weakness, that you may think you are weak in algorithm, you want to do really good in algorithms because you want to be a very good programmer, so you can improve. Every good programmers have scope to improve in algorithm, data structures. These are the stuffs, right? So you can tell them, yeah, I think I have weakness in this topic and I need to improve, right? Time management you can talk about. Also, you can tell them, I do not know how to say no in many cases. People ask me to do something and I do those things. And although these are not part of my responsibility, I think this is my weakness. But you are telling your weakness in a positive manner, right? You cannot tell people no. There are people they cannot say no. Do you know that?
Thank you.
I answered your question, right? Okay, then good. Any other question? No? No question? All right. So I appreciate and thank you guys for joining this session. And I tried to give answer of your questions. You have my details. Anytime, text us, call us, talk to us, and we should be able to, at least tell you hi and hello. There is no harm for us to help you in some, to some extent, whatever the time we have within that. And feel free to let others know what we do, and invite people to, talk to us. That will be much appreciable. And yeah, hope to see you next session, guys.
All right. I would like to thank you, Jahidul Bhai, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jahidul bhai.
Thank you.
It was
Thank
so
you, Jahidul bhai.
Thank
informative.
you for your time. And
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thank
see
you
next
for
time.
yeah. You can also, okay, let me give it last thought. You can also come up, if you have something very specific you think that you can get to know from me, you can drop us a text saying that, Jadil, can we talk to you guys? Can we have a session on a specific this topic, right? It could be X and Y. I don't know. You can think about it. If it's about your interviews or about something else, it doesn't harm. We can have some sessions, short 30-minute sessions, answering your questions like that. I would be happy to do that. So yeah, feel free to reach out and anytimes. That's it. Thank you.